And thank you very much for joining us here on PM Express. My guest tonight is the General Secretary of the main opposition New Patriotic Party. They just finished addressing a news conference, a very charged press conference, but you can understand why. It has to do with the Ablekuma North rerun in 19 polling stations. The Electoral Commission says they are going ahead with that. The NPP says that is simply not going to happen. They've taken the matter to court, and today they took time to address the press to explain their position in greater depth. But the EC, from what we understand, is proceeding as if nothing has happened. So how does the party plan to get the EC to listen to its concerns and do as they have asked for, which is that only collate the 3 outstanding polling station results that were left after the 2024 elections? It's a matter of grave national concern. It has national security implications because the elections are just this Friday. He's my guest in the studio. Thank you very much for joining us here on PM Express.
Thank you, Vice.
So what's the point of today's news conference?
Well, good evening to you and your viewers. Today we had a press conference, and it was a follow-up of an earlier press conference I did last week. On last week, 1st July, that was Tuesday, the Electoral Commission conveyed political parties' engagement. And the political parties were the NPP and the NDC. It all had to do with Ablekuma North. And at the meeting, the reps for the NPP were Evans Nimako, our Director of Research and Elections, and Honorable Ibn Zanati, former MP for Ablekuma Central, only for the EC to convey the message to them that after the back and forth and all issues surrounding Ablekuma North, they have decided to do a rerun of 19 polling stations, which our reps there saw and found it very astonishing, because we had worked from one point to a certain point, whereby we all knew that the only outstanding polling stations yet to be collated in Ablekuma North were just 3. And before then, the High Court on 4th January 2025 had given an order of mandamus for the Electoral Commission to complete collation and also declare the winner in some outstanding constituencies. At that time, we had Okaikwe Central, Tema Central, Nsawa Adroji, Ablekuma North, Techiman South, and ordered the Electoral Commission to complete the collation in those constituencies and the police to give protection to the Electoral Commission. So we were able to do all those constituencies except for Ablekuma North. Even Ablekuma North, at that time, we had 62 outstanding polling stations. So back and forth, in spite of all the confusion, the drama, the chaos at the collation center, the distraction of the ballot papers, pink sheet at the collation center, we were able to go through to get to just 3 polling stations. And at that time, I remember Mr. Dampire was the IGP, and he was impressed upon to provide security for the Electoral Commission to finish the 3 outstanding coalition, which for some reason he didn't do. Then the new IGP also came in, and there have been several meetings between the IGP and the Electoral Commission, and even the political parties. So on 3rd June, I wrote 2 letters, one to the Ghana Police Service and the other to the Electoral Commission, to inquire about the status of Ablekuma North collation. The Ghana Police responded by stating that they are ready to provide security, but however, they have been told by the NDC that there's a pending case at the court which has not been determined, and therefore if they should proceed to provide any protection, they will be in contempt of court, and for that matter they are unable to provide security. But they have, however, written to the Attorney General for advice. as I indicated, had also written to the Electoral Commission to also seek their response on the Ablekuma North impasse. Then the EC responded to my letter on 11th of June, where they indicated that so far as they know and on record, there are only 3 outstanding polling stations. And for them, they are ready when the police provide them with security to complete the collation.
You said 3?
3 polling stations, as at the letter that they sent to me on 11th of June. And they are waiting for the police to provide security. And for them, there is no case pending before the court. So the Ghana Police Service, all that they have to do is to provide security, and which we side with the position of the Electoral Commission, because if there is or there was any case in court, definitely we are interested party would have been served. The Ghana Electoral Commission would have also been served, which there is no case because we have not been served. So we find it very astonishing, the defense by the Ghana Police Service. We just, for us, draw the conclusion that it's an attempt to frustrate the process because the NDC is in government and they have control over the Ghana Police. That is our position. Then on 12th of June, the Electoral Commission invited political parties, NPP and DC, and reiterated the same position that they are left with only 3 outstanding polling stations at Ablekuma North and that they need police protection. NDC raised objection that to them there should be a rerun in about 37 polling stations, which the Electoral Commission rejected. That based on the work that they've done and the party's agents were there together with the presiding officer. So for them, they are done with all polling stations except for 3 polling stations. And subsequent to that also, the Parliament of Ghana also invited the Electoral Commission to come and give an update of Ablekuma North, which Dr. Bosman went to represent the Electoral Commission. And Parliament is a house of record. In Parliament, Dr. Bosman also reiterated the same position, that it is left with 3 polling stations at Ablekuma North. And therefore, they are waiting for the Ghana Police Service to provide them with security. And it's there. The records are there. Video records are there. Then, only for us to be called for the meeting, as I indicated on 1st July, that the Electoral Commission is saying that they are going to do a rerun. So our reps there informed them that this is news to us, because all along we know we have done collation and it's left with just 3 polling stations. So therefore, our reps said they have to come and communicate to the party that this is what the Electoral Commission.
Did the EC communicate why they had decided now to do the rerun in this meeting?
At that meeting, they had not. They just said to ensure there is peace and also for them to complete the exercise, they are of the view that they should do a rerun of some 19 polling stations. So we asked them, our rep asked them to put it on paper and communicate officially to the New Patriotic Party. Only for us to read in the news that they have issued a release and that they are going ahead to do a rerun in 19 police stations. It was afterwards that they sent official communication to the NPP that this is what they are going to do. And Evans, we find it as very unconscionable, very absurd, very repugnant, inconsistent with the best principles of law and even best practices. Because as a reputable institution as the Electoral Commission, consistency, certainty, principle should be your hallmark. Because we've traveled far, we've gotten to this point, and everyone knows that there are 3 outstanding polling stations. And the irony of what they have done is that even with the 19 polling stations that they said we have to go and do a rerun, ordinarily, it should also capture the 3 outstanding polling stations. Because for the 3 outstanding polling stations, we are aware that we have not done the collation. That one is not debatable. So if you are saying you are going to do a rerun in 19 polling stations, then you must have the 3 outstanding polling stations be inclusive.
You said the 19 does not include the 3?
The 19 include only 2 of the 3. Leaving 1 polling station referred to as Gloryland Hotel or Dock Hall. So the first question we are posing to the Electoral Commission is, when was the collation for Gloryland Hotel done?
Have they already published to you the 19 polling stations that they will be
Yes,
conducting? They've already given
we
you
have the list. We have the list of the 19. In fact,
Did they formally give it to you?
The list, yes. And if the release issued by Mr. Tete, it had the 19 polling stations. But conspicuously, Gloryland Hotel is not part of the 19. So the question that we are posing to the Electoral Commission, when was the collation for Gloryland Hotel done? That's one. Then two, how did the Electoral Commission arrive at the collation that, it's left with 3 outstanding polling stations? We want to know the process. Because we know that in collating results, it is not done by political parties. Political parties are there as witness. And it's the Electoral Commission that do the collation. So how did we arrive at the 3 outstanding polling stations? Which means that certainly there was an officer from the Electoral Commission. There was a presiding officer from...
You mean the 3 or the 19?
The three outstanding, because...
Yeah. But those were not collated.
That's what I'm saying. So how do you work to get to the outstanding 3 that we have done out of the 281? We've done 279, remaining 3. So there are 279. How were they collated for the Electoral Commission to state that there are 3 outstanding police?
So your point you're making is that at the point that the EC was communicating the 3 outstanding,
yes,
they must have done collation for the rest of the police stations in the constituency.
That's it. And we all know how collations are done in this country. When, after the close of poll, the presiding officers at the respective polling stations take the statement of poll. After they have counted the ballot papers, they're able to determine the number each candidate got. Then they fill it in the statement of poll. Afterwards, agents sign, the presiding officers also sign. Then each party is given a copy of the statement of poll, or what we commonly refer to as the pink sheet. New Patriotic Party, our modus operandi has been that before we go to collation center, we scan all our pink sheets. So we scanned all our 281 pink sheets and collated our results. So before we went to the Electoral Commission, we knew our candidate had obtained 34,613, as against NDC candidate 34,199, a difference of 414 votes. So we were very sure. But you all saw the drama, what happened at Ablekuma North. Ballot papers were burnt at where they were kept in the school. You all saw multimedia were there at the collation center, pink sheets being torn, officers being dragged from the Electoral Commission collation center, distraction that happened over there. So when we were doing the collation, at the point the Electoral Commission didn't even have some of their pink sheets because they were destroyed. So NPP even gave some of our pink sheet for them to also rely on it. And their presiding officers...
But these were copies, not original ones.
Yeah, but copies are as good as original because it comes from the original and they gave it to us. So they even relied on our pink sheet to call for the collation of some of the polling stations. So as I speak to you, some of our pink sheets are with the Electoral Commission because they relied on it and they wanted to keep it for record. And we went through all these processes. So how come you have turned around, you have made a sudden U-turn, that you are going to do 19 polling stations?
The EC issued a statement,
yes,
which gives some clarity on some of the questions you are raising. It says that it's important for the public to understand that the issue in contention has to do with the fact that 37 pink sheets provided by the NPP and used to collate the results were scanned copies. NDC, that's the first one. NDC says once they are scanned copies, they are not original and you cannot authenticate those pink sheets. The EC seemed to agree that you're actually calling the public's attention to the fact that they were scanned copies and not the original copies.
You see, when you read the Evidence Act and Electronic Transaction Act, scanned copies are as good as original copy in the absence of the original copy, unless the party which is the custodian of that original copy disputes it.
But now the EC is disputing.
And I put it to you that before we arrived at the 279 polling stations results being collated, the presiding officers were there to authenticate those pink sheets. Then
the scanned copies you gave them. So there were the pink sheets.
You see, let us not confuse the discussion. NPP had our pink sheets. We also had scanned copies. There were
scanned copies of the
pink sheets.
Yes.
Right? So instances whereby EC did not have their pink sheets, we readily gave our pink sheet to them.
Your scanned copies of the pink sheets?
That pink
actual pink sheet.
Copy pink sheet, yes.
Okay. The actual pink, your copy of the pink sheet. Not the scanned
copy. Not the scanned copy.
Okay.
To the EC. And there were no debate about it. And even where we did not have the pink sheet and had scanned copy, the EC had their pink sheet. So that is how they were able to cross-check and see whether the scanned copy tallies with their original pink sheet. So that is how come their presiding officers were able to authenticate the 279 polling stations.
But it appears to me that in this case, for the 37 polling stations, the EC did not have their copies of the pink sheets,
which we gave ours to them.
So, but the EC now says that what you gave them were not the actual copies, they were the scanned copies of the original.
I made two propositions.
Yeah.
There's one where NPP has a scanned copy, EC has their original copy, and they compare.
They can compare, yes.
Right. And there are cases where there are scanned copies, and the presiding officers they confirmed
that they accept the scanned copy.
Yes, that this is what transpired at the polling station.
But this is the same EC now.
Yes,
questioning the scanned copies.
So Evans, is it not surprising? Are you not shocked that this body that sat through the whole process had its officers there to authenticate the results from the polling stations? And this collation was not done at NPP headquarters. Neither was it done at NDC headquarters. Neither did the two parties went to sit somewhere to collate their results. It was done certainly with the Electoral Commission. So how were those collations done? How were they called? And the simple question I pose to you is that, how did you arrive at the 279? So on what grounds, on what basis did the Electoral Commission stood on to say that there are only 3 outstanding polling stations? Certainly, evidence are there, videos are there, the parties went to the collation center, NDC, NPP, plus their presiding officers, plus their return officers, before we came to the agreement that yes, it is left with 3 outstanding polling stations. And in that case, there is a ruling from the election petition in 2012 by Justice Atubuga, when he made the pronouncement that when people sacrifice their time to go and queue to cast their vote, and their votes are recorded, and there are evidence on the face of the pin sheet that this is what transpired at the polling center, and it is signed by agent, it's signed by the presiding officer. Even when doing collation, the presiding officer is not there. It does not nullify the votes or what transpired at the polling station. So what is the Electoral Commission doing?
But you make that point, and the EC has something to say about that.
Yes.
It appears from the EC's position that subsequent to all the meetings and assurances they've given you, they did some more work in trying to ascertain what really they can verify. And they claim that after extensive deliberations, the Commission informed the political parties that it would proceed to rerun the election in 19 out of the 37 polling stations. The Commission arrived at the decision to rerun the election in the underlisted polling stations because the 19 scanned polling station results used for the collation, though approved by agents of both political parties, were not verified by the presiding officers responsible for those polling stations.
So when they say we're not verified, have you found out what the verification means?
Well, that's the Electoral Commission.
No, but you cannot just churn information out there without justifying or explaining further. Because I've told you that we have the pin sheet, we have scanned copies, whereby their presiding officers have signed.
Yeah, but in this case, the EC says that they didn't
and we
verify.
disagree with the EC.
You have evidence of the 19 where the presiding officers actually signed on the back of.
For the sake of our argument, right? I will show to you. You can just go through it. Okay. So maybe you can just go through it.
So this is
the scan copy of all the
polling
281 polling
stations. Okay. So we need to then look for those that are part of the 19, right?
These ones are the 19.
These ones are the 19.
So you can read the name of the polling station.
So the polling station, there's Pentecost.
Yes. Yes.
And I see here, and I have the EC statement also here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see if there's Pentecost.
The first polling station.
There is Nyamiche.
Go through.
I see, and I'm talking about the EC statement, because they provided a list of the 19. Nyamiche, there's Kwashiman, there's Awoshi. I don't see in the EC's 19 Pentecost though. But let me again look for another one. This will be, okay, so name of polling station. Okay, so a lot of them didn't even have the name of the polling stations.
All of them.
I see, because this would be where this is where the polling station. The first one I see the Pentecost, yes. Right?
So there's Pentecost Church.
Exactly, that's the one. But I don't see that.
There's another one.
See when
DVLA Awoshi.
But you see the EC's list.
All the lists are there. And
no, what I'm saying is that the EC's list doesn't include Pentecost.
So this is the 281.
All of it.
All of it.
Okay, but I'm looking for the 19.
So the 19 are part of
part of this. Okay, so then we have to do a more, and of course I can't do it whilst you're having the conversation.
We have,
but you insist that for the 19,
which is part of the 281 polling station, we have all the pin sheets.
Okay.
Signed by the returning.
But are these the 19 or all 200?
All the 281 polling stations.
That's what you have. So we have to now
give to you for you to take it out. The 19 out.
And then sort of.
So we have all of it, which is signed by the presiding officers for all these polling stations. So is it the verification meaning that they are denying or they are disputing the signatures over there, or is it the verification that they were not present at the collation center? In both cases, I put to the Electoral Commission that their presiding officers were at the collation center.
And they verified the
documents. They verified all that they've signed before the collation was called at those polling stations.
Because the evidence that would really support your case, the EC says these are 19 polling stations. And I want to go to the 19 because that then clarifies it. If you go to the Ablekuma North, 19, there are very few numbers. There's Nyamiche, there's Kwashiman, there's Awoshi 1 and 2, there's Bintu, there's Kwashibu, there's Chumami.
Can you also refer to the code? Because
yes, the code is important. I mean,
can you mention the first code?
The first code, Nyamiche, for example, is C160209, right?
Yeah.
God First International School, right? That's God First.
Yes.
So the Pentecost one, I've seen it.
Yes, it's part
it's called the Pentecost Church, Mount Zion Assembly, Kwashiman.
You have it there.
I've seen it.
That's what I'm saying.
I've seen it. So that's the Pentecost. So that's the Pentecost Church, Mount Zion. Okay. So that is the first one. Is Nyamiche is C160209. C120. Okay. So that is on the face of it. Shows that it is it. But the code is slightly different, though. I mean, but you say it has been signed by the presiding. I see the presiding officer's signature on this. So is this what you take into the court?
So we have the pin sheet. We have also the scan copy. So at the end of the day, all that we are asking is one. These pin sheets, as you've seen it, as you say on the face of it, the document had the signature of the presiding officers, which they have not come to dispute it. One. Then two.
Have you showed this to them?
They know, they have it.
I mean, to be fair though, as part of the, I was looking for the Pentecost one, for example, the code, which is C160411. I think I see there. It's faint, but I could still see.
No,
what
it's scan copy.
Yeah.
So we have everything there.
But isn't that where the problem is?
No, there's no should be
because
a problem.
they talk about scan copies, and
no,
it's very difficult to
by
even
the end of
read
the
scan
what,
copies.
Evans, what you have to ask yourself is the figures over there. You go through it as you've mentioned it. The name of the polling station, you've mentioned it right.
Yeah, it's Pentecost Church, Mount Zion Assembly, Kwashima. And the code is C160411.
Look, you just have to embolden it and look at it. Is it faint?
Yeah, it's C160411.
So you can tell listener that it's not faint. Once you zoom.
Yeah, I see. Once you expand it.
Once you expand it, you see it very clearly. And what name is written there? The Richard something.
Richard David Aqua.
Yes. And can you see?
Who you see?
That's the presiding officer. And can you see any signature over there?
Well, there's something there that looks like a signature.
No, but it's written beneath the signature.
Yeah, I know, but
definitely
in legal terms, it looks like a signature.
Well, you can play around, but on the face of this document, if you are restricting yourself on the face of this document, the name is there, the signature is there. So until proven otherwise, on the face of it, that's the signature of the presiding officer.
But also note that the Electoral Commission, they are the custodian of this document.
Yes.
They, in the statement, say to you that it's not verified. And they must have spoken.
No, and I ask you a simple question.
They must have spoken to the presiding officer.
I ask you a simple question. Where the verification means what? Is it the verification that the signature over there is not that of the person who has signed? Or the verification meaning that when we were doing the collation, the presiding officer was not there? And you must choose your answer cautiously. Because with the moment you say that it's not the signature of that person, then it becomes a crime. You understand? It will mean that you have also...
But then also raises the fundamental question you should raise about the authenticity of the document.
So that's why we need to restrict ourselves to the evidence that we have. And I've put it out there.
The evidence.
No.
The first of all is a scan copy that you can't verify. But the NDC says they can't trust your scan copy.
But where is their copy? In all the discussion, have we asked the NDC, where is their pin sheet? Where is that pin sheet? If indeed NDC also have a scan copy that they have won at Ablekuma, why are they not producing it? Why is it that in all the discussion they have failed to produce their pin sheet? Is it not suspicious? Does it not erase issues? And at the end of the day, which particular people burnt the ballot papers at the school?
But you know they are not obliged to provide the pink sheets unless it goes before a court of competence.
So at the end of the day, we are trying to produce evidence. And you are sure that you've won the elections. To make your case solid and sufficient, you need to produce your evidence.
But in the court of public opinion, they don't have to.
No, but in the court of public, they have to.
Why?
At least to confirm their credibility that indeed they have also won the election like we've done. So if NDC also had their pin sheet, would have been where we are.
I mean,
and I'm telling you,
all they need is the EC to agree with them. The EC agrees that it must be wrong.
That doesn't mean they are right. And Evans, let us not look at this flatly. Let us not look at this lightly. We are setting a dangerous precedent in this country. Today, you may think NDC is in government, they have the goodwill, and therefore they can decide to do whatever they like. This is not the first and last time we hold elections in Ghana. What kind of signal are we sending in 2028? That when a person or a political party is going to elections and realize that they are not going to win, all that they have to do is go on cause chaos, burn ballot papers, go to collation center, cause disruption, intimidate, assault officers, cause disruption. Because at the end of the day, it will come back to Electoral Commission making the pronouncement. Or because there has been distraction of ballot papers, because there is distraction of pink sheet, let's go for a rerun. So it means that no political party should bother itself going to campaign. All you have to do, train macho men, train tax to go to collation center and cause distraction. But at the end of the day, and is that the kind of precedent you want to set in this country? You know what
fascinates me? I mean, at the time this was happening in 2024, you were in power. All the coercive forces of the state were under your command. And you watched for them to do that.
Yes.
If the allegations you're making are indeed true, That may be an indictment on your government's ability to maintain law and order.
Yeah, but what after when the government was sworn in? Because this issue also continued after even January 7th.
Yeah, but I get it. But that's
but I'm also making a point.
No,
that
but
it also continued into the new
the
administration.
main elections.
Yes.
Was under your watch.
Yes.
The main election.
Under which watch?
Under your watch.
It was under the security services.
No, but the security
services. And it's expected
services,
to be professional.
The president's
devoid
primary,
of any political interest.
Every government's primary responsibility is law and order. Primary.
Yes.
So when you say that, you're actually indicting your government, that you failed.
No. At the end of the day, you are rather indicting the security services. Because the security is in the hands of the security services.
Definitely.
And they are supposed to be professional.
Extension, the government's job is to do that.
The government cannot and should not do in the affairs of the security services.
No, but the president's primary role is
by the end of the day,
security.
The implementation of security is at the behest of security agencies. And if you think that because President or Akufo-Addo or whoever could not prevent it, therefore it's an indictment of the government, I disagree with you. But at the end of the day, we expect men in uniform to be professional. We expect men in uniform to make sure that there's law and order.
But we know that the men in uniform, by our very legal architecture that governs the security services, are answerable to a politician.
Really?
But, yeah, absolutely. The appointment. Even the police council, you know that. The police council is chaired by a politician.
Yes.
Right? The president appoints the IGP. He's called the commander-in-chief for a reason. They all answer to a politician, the entire structure. Of course, the IGP is there as a figurehead. But the IGP ultimately answers to the police council. And I'm saying that because you say that the collation chaos happened after the swearing in, if that is true, then you must also take responsibility for failing to maintain law and order.
So that is why it's important that our institutions are supposed to be impartial. That's why it's important our institutions are supposed to be professional. So are you trying to tell me that the reason why the police failed to provide security for us to complete the collation of the 3 outstanding police stations was because they were working under the behest of this government? That's why they failed to provide security. If by analogy that is what you mean, that's so it is deliberate that the NDC government has given instruction to the police not to provide security. That's why we couldn't complete the 3 outstanding police stations.
Well, the EC stations said that
because they said they needed security, and the security is under, as per your knowledge, it's under the instruction of the president.
Ultimately.
And in any case, I'll go back to the pronouncement by the court on January 4th, 2025. The court made an explicit pronouncement that EC, we are giving you an order of mandamus. Go and collate the outstanding police stations and declare the results. The court never said, go and do a rerun. So there's a difference between go and collate and go and do a rerun. So
but if that's the case, the EC should be in contempt of court.
Exactly, that's the point.
But why are you not in court making the case?
That is the point.
So why are you not in court making the point
I'm driving at?
No, but why are you not in
court
making
the contempt? And that is why we are in court.
But you're not in court making a contempt of court argument.
But do you know do you know the details of our writ?
At least from what I've read, it's first of all an interlocutory injunction.
Yes. So
to stop the EC
so
from proceeding.
Do you know other strategies that we have put in place?
You tell me.
So I'm telling you, we are in court, and the EC has been cited for contempt. The EC has been cited for contempt of court because the directive from the court was explicit. Go, collate, and declare. And you cannot vary the order of the court. Even if in any case you had even legitimate concerns that the directive that the court has given is unenforceable, the only remedy is to go back to the court to get a further directive or a varied directive. It does not lie on the EC to conduct elections and after elections sit in the office and say that for convenience sake, but based on their own extensive investigation or knowledge, we are going to do a rerun. And that will be a bad precedent for this country. There's a reason why the EC's work is to conduct elections. But anything that departs from after conducting elections, which involves even rerun everything, it is only the court of competent jurisdiction that can give that directive. It does not lie so much on the EC to decide that we are going to do a rerun. And that is why the party is citing the EC for contempt.
So, as we speak now, the EC is proceeding with the plans for the rerun in the 19 polling stations. In fact, the NDC tell us that last night they received a letter for them to come supervise the printing of the ballot. So the printing of the ballot possibly as we speak right now is happening. Did you receive that letter too?
Yes.
Do you have your men there?
No.
Why?
Because we can't be part of an illegality.
But the process is going on without you.
It doesn't matter. We can't be part of an illegal process. As a party, we are guided by conviction and principle. If after the elections, even our team at Ablekuma North were unable to scan their pink sheet, if after the elections there were no records to convince us to justify that indeed we won these parliamentary elections, then we have no other option. It wouldn't have gotten to this point. But it would be totally unfair, ridiculous, that when we have done our collation based on our scanned pink sheet and even pink sheet that we have, our candidate has won the elections clearly, and you are telling us that we should forego our victory and go and do a rerun. That would be a defeatist approach. Then that will make nonsense of whatever we have taken to court, because we are in the court to challenge the decision by the Electoral Commission. You are in the court to justify your position that you've won the elections and you want the Electoral Commission to go and complete the order by the court. So what would be the point for you to go for the rerun?
I mean, seeing that the printing is happening anyway without you, the court hasn't granted or even fixed a date to hear your injunction application.
Yes.
You are shooting yourself in the foot.
We are not shooting ourselves. We are standing by principle, and posterity will judge us. Posterity will judge us. And tomorrow, we all live to see. Posterity will judge us. And I'm afraid for the country, the kind of bad precedent we are setting for ourselves. And this is something I'm expecting you, Evans, to speak against. That it is wrong that after elections, some people will take the laws into their hands, destroy ballot papers, go to collation center, cause mayhem, cause confusion, assault electoral officers, and afterwards, they are being rewarded with a rerun. And if you think that as journalists of this country, it is fair, then so be it.
I mean, you say that, I hear you, but there was at the time when this happened, we recovered Ablekuma North extensively. You had an interior minister who said pretty much nothing about the chaos that happened at Ablekuma North. Didn't issue any directives about what was going to happen to people. We didn't even see anybody arrested. The general secretary of the NPP cannot then point fingers at somebody else who raised the issue. When at the time your own interior minister was absolutely quiet.
But
didn't demand that the law should take its full course against it. And some of the cameras where they capture people do it. So it's not like you were going to now find the evidence. As we speak, do it from December 7th to the time that you were sworn in another government, you had a clear month to bring people to book. Nothing happened.
Well, unless we are being hypocritical with the issues, which happens after post-elections. You are in this country, and you know it, that the moment the government changes, and there's a new government coming in, even officers tend to shift towards the incoming government, unless you want to pretend that's happening in this country. So that's why we are saying that we need stronger institutions.
But you had power. You were
so you give directive and people defy. If you give directive, people defy. What will you do?
Was that what happened?
Huh?
Was that a fact that you gave directives and people defied?
Whatever transpired in the place, in the collation center, you cannot exonerate the Ghana Police Service, the leadership.
Yeah,
whatever happened.
But there was an interior minister.
So at the end of the
time,
interior minister cannot go to a collation center and give orders. The orders have to be implemented by men in uniform.
So I mean,
and there are certain times where even ministers have given directives which are inimical to the security of our country, and officers have defied.
That's true, but I'm asking you a fundamental question. Were the directives issued for people to be brought to book according to law.
At the end of the day, what that directive...
That's something that the interior minister was entitled to do.
At the end of the day, the interior minister alone could not.
But did he do the bare minimum?
As to whether he did or not, that's not for me an issue. My issue is those who bear the ultimate responsibility, those who have been entrusted as professionals to see to it that there is peace, stability in this country.
But
as we said, politicians will come, politicians will go.
Yeah.
But stronger institutions must protect the integrity of the country. They must make sure that they do not act at the behest, at the waste and caprices of politicians.
What about their political heads? I mean, because if the IGP had failed,
yes,
the president
should
sack the IGP.
Absolutely. At that time.
If the IGP had failed and his woeful and everybody saw it, the president had the power. We see IGPs sacked all the time.
Even assuming, without admitting, that president did not sack the IGP, does it mean that IGP couldn't have instilled discipline? Does it mean that IGP, in acting professionally, couldn't have arrested the culprits? So the IGP was waiting for the president to give instructions before it acts. Is that how you want our police services and security agencies to work? That unless politicians give them instructions, they will not do their professional job. Is that your analysis, Ivan?
No, I mean, I'm just asking you.
Yes, I agree with you.
When you were in power.
I will agree with you.
Once you're in power, you must take responsibility.
I agree with you that I'll concede that, okay, politicians never gave the directive. The president didn't give the directive. The interior minister didn't give the directive. So is that an excuse for the Ghana Police Service not to do their work? Is that your knowledge? Is that the excuse that because the interior minister did not give you a directive, so as a professional body, you don't know what you are supposed to do?
I mean, still on that subject of Ablekuma North.
Yes.
So the violence made it impossible for the EC to collate. We've just discussed what happened in terms of holding people accountable. The political leadership failed us. You say the police also failed us. Both are true. Where we are now is a question of resolving Ablekuma North.
Yes.
EC is going ahead without you anyway.
Yes.
Friday is the day. What does the NPP do on Friday?
For us, we are not taking part in the rerun because from the evidence that we have on the face of our scan copies and even copy of pink sheets that we have, and even those that were given to the Electoral Commission, we are convinced beyond reasonable doubt that our candidate, Nana Kwefie, won the Ablekuma North elections. And it will be unconscionable and absurd and repugnant on our part to take part in an exercise where we have won already. And also to defy the orders of the court, which mandated the EC to go collate and declare. It will make nonsense of whatever we are doing as a party in terms of principle. And we want to side on the side of principle, that we have won the elections and all that we are waiting is for the court to compel the Electoral Commission to complete the process. And that's indicated. EC is a body. If they feel that they want to go ahead with their rerun, we are pursuing the matter in court. And it is our firm belief and hope that you have men of integrity who will stand by the truth.
You mean other courts?
Who will stand by the truth and look at the evidence and document before it and speak the truth, at least for the sake of the country, for the sake of future elections, to protect our democracy, to protect our integrity and speak the truth. That is what the NPP is calling for.
So you're boycotting Fridays?
We are not taking part.
You presented as a boycott?
Yes, we are not taking part.
But you're also hoping for the court to grant you an injunction?
That lies within the court.
Okay, and you have no control over that. Has a date been set for?
That lies within the court.
Okay, again, you don't have any clarity.
So that lies within the court. By Friday, you will hear.
Yeah, I mean, but how the candidate who you claim won elections, what's his reaction? I saw her sitting beside you too.
Yes.
What's her reaction?
Oh, she understands. I know.
She's agreeing for you not to participate.
No, she has worked very hard as a candidate. She has stood very firm. She has shown so much commitment in the whole process from day one, from December 7th to date. Yesterday, though she's not a member of NEC, we invited her to be part of National Executive Committee. She made a point, we listened to her, we looked at all the possible scenarios that the party can undertake and came to that firm conclusion. And she understands where we are and she supports the position of the party because she knows that the party means well for her. And she understands that we are in it together. And she went to stand on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party. So definitely, she is on our side, she understands. That is why even the press conference was held at her office. So certainly she is part. The constituency is part, the regional party is part, the national party is part, and the National Executive Committee. We are all singing the same song.
I mean, you say she won, but there's no evidence to support that, right? Because at the time that this was scuttled, there were 3 outstanding polling station results that had not come in.
Yes.
So none of the 2 parties can claim victory then.
Yes. Because
on what basis are you claiming
because at the end of the
you
day,
won?
for any serious political party, even before coalition is done, you should know whether you have won or you have lost. Unless you want to pretend.
So what are the numbers? What are your
Unless
numbers?
you want to pretend. Huh?
What are your
As I
numbers?
indicated to you, after collating all the 281 polling stations, our candidate has 34,613.
34,713.
613.
And the NDC?
And it's had 34,199.
So that's a very, very close race.
Yes, so 414. It's a close election, you know. So that's what I'm telling you.
That is if your figures are right.
And that's what I'm telling you. And I put it to the NDC. That they know. They have done their coalition. They know. And they know they've lost.
But what's your concern really? If this goes ahead, if what you're saying is true, then you should relax because you win.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why we are not going to take part in the rerun.
Because you believe you believe the rerun will affirm this.
No, because we know we've won. So if you won in an election, why do you go for a rerun? It was a simple question.
Because some of the
why?
because
one person, because the EC is saying go
but
for a rerun.
But the EC is the only authority on the matter.
No, so you don't believe in your principles. You don't believe in the work that you've done. You don't believe in your scam.
But my question to you is, if you believe you won,
yes,
a rerun will only validate that.
No, that means you are giving credence to an illegality. That means you are giving credence to bad precedent. It's not a question of going to rerun. It's about principle. It's about principle. We must have principle. We must have conviction. So tomorrow you go to elections and you win. And this same body comes to tell you that based on whatever reasons, they think you should go for a rerun.
I mean, Johnson Asiedu Nketia says the Electoral Commission is incompetent. They need to be reset. They are not fit for purpose. You must certainly agree now, considering your grievance with the East Electoral Commission, or you disagree still?
Well, based on what is happening currently, I'm unable to even speak positively of the Electoral Commission. Because the inconsistency from their action even makes it difficult for me to even understand the decision that they have taken.
So
or for me to even criticize a person's perception about the Electoral Commission.
So you agree with Johnson Asiedu Nketia?
Well, that's the point I've made. That I'm unable to even side with them. I'm unable to even defend them. Because if you cannot be consistent with your own decision, if you cannot be coherent, then it makes it difficult for people to even predict you. And that is where we are as a country. At least the Electoral Commission must have principle.
You think they lack that?
Certainly they do. Because of what we are witnessing at the moment. Because you cannot take a decision as a reputable institution like the Electoral Commission. They come back, make a U-turn. And you know elections, the stakes are always high. It's about life, people's lives. It's about integrity. It's about people's fortune. People have worked very hard to get to where they are now. And because of your inconsistency, you want to create tension, you want to create chaos in this country. It's a shame. It's a shame. You go to Parliament, House of Record, you make a position that this is the position that the Electoral Commission has taken. It's left only 3 outstanding polling stations. And nothing will compel the Electoral Commission to change. And even if there's going to be a rerun, The rerun will be at those 3 polling stations, and that one will even be as your last resort. So what has changed? A political party writes to you. You respond with a confirmation that indeed it's left with 3 polling stations. You call for political parties meeting. You confirm again that it's left with 3 polling stations. They just come back one day to make that pronouncement that you're going to do a rerun in 19 polling stations. Who will accept that? And does it make sense to us as a country? And this is the direction that we want to go. Certainly not.
I mean, you must then agree with John Sidney Ketia that the chairperson and the 2 deputies must go there.
Well, I will still reiterate the point. For where I say that what they have done, I'm unable to even comment on the Electoral Commission.
So if then you agree, then they must
but that
go
is for your interpretation. The inconsistency on their part, I'm unable.
So you will not defend them if a process is started to remove the 3?
Why should I? On what basis? That's why I said we must have principle and conviction. For people to respect you for that, even if they disagree with you. But when you tend to have inconsistency in your delivery, it makes you unpredictable. It makes it difficult for people to even side with you and even understand your situation, no matter how good reasons you may have.
I mean, what I find fascinating is before last week, really, your party is on record countless number of times asserting the independence, the quality of work, the excellence of this current Electoral Commission and its chairperson and deputies. You've asserted that.
When you say our party, can you be specific? Is it me as General Secretary, or
when I say your party,
some members of my
very
party?
Very leading members of your party. I've spoken to Evans Nemako many times, Director of Elections.
Yes.
When the NDC, obviously, was attacking the Electoral Commission, he would stand and say, they believe in the World Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission has done a great job. You sided with the Electoral Commission when they said the last elections in 2020 was one of the better ones. You agreed with that position. It's fascinating, having said all that in the past. When I say you, I don't mean you, Justin Kodiafim, I mean your members of your party, leading members of to say that, and all of a sudden, because of one incident, you no longer trust the Electoral Commission.
Well, I totally agree with any assertion which talks about the independence of the Electoral Commission. Certainly, our institutions are supposed to be independent. Certainly, I agree with all kinds of assertions.
But the excellence?
That points to that point. That points to that angle. But as to excellence, it depends on how people see their work. And I've never had an engagement with you whereby I've said the Electoral Commission work is excellent. And it will be an overhyping for me to say their work is excellent, because they are also a human institution. But at least they must strive a balance so that at least people will be satisfied with the work that they do as a commission. And certainly per records, they have done their best as Electoral Commission.
So what has changed?
That is
one incident.
No, that you see, that's
they have a position, you have yours. They are setting independence.
That's the surprising aspect or surprising element of the work that they've done. And even on this show, I've told you the dangerous precedent that can emanate from this decision. I was expecting you to doubt it or to question it, but you have not. That it will be a bad precedent whereby people go into elections, work very hard. Then someone will sit somewhere, tamper with the evidence, destroy ballot papers, and because of that, you go for a rerun. And I asked you, what kind of precedents will you be setting as a country? You agree with me on that one. Then 2, I also made the point that pose the question to the Electoral Commission when you get the chance. How did they arrive at the 3 outstanding polling stations? What went into it? And when they say that their presiding officer did not verify, what did they mean by that verification? Is it that they are challenging their signature, or is it that they were not there in person to authenticate their signature? We need to also establish that. So these are pertinent questions that we need to ask the Electoral Commission. It shouldn't be hook, line, sinker that the Electoral Commission have said this, so that is the final decision. At least we should also have people who will be able to question them on their reasoning, to ascertain, to explain to us, to appreciate where they are coming from, and also to ask them that, yes, even before he came to this position, you all knew there were 3 outstanding polling stations, and you have seen only 2 of the 3 outstanding polling stations in the 19 polling stations. So what happens to the remaining polling station, Gloryland Hotel? How did you arrive? Or how did
I'm
you
just curious, have you
collect?
formally brought this to the attention of the Electoral? Formally, I mean, the evidence you claim you have, the protests that you're raising on the show, at the press conference, and the other interviews. Have you formally brought this to the attention?
We've told them their position, even at the meeting we held with them.
But that was before the statement came to say we're running 19.
No, but at that point, we also made our position known to them.
But you didn't have this evidence that you claim you have. The evidence you showed me that on the face of it, some of the polling stations that they are going to rerun, you claim already.
We have had this evidence from day one.
Have you given them to them?
You've seen it, even at the collation center. As you indicated, there were some that were relying on scan copies, there were some that were relying on pink sheet. So it's something that's in the system that they have seen, even at the collation center. So I don't know what else they want us to show.
You must have demanded a meeting with the chairperson of the Electoral Commission this month.
Oh, but we had that meeting with them.
Okay.
It was at that meeting that they made that pronouncement. So it's a decision that they have taken. And they've gone ahead just a day after having a meeting with the political parties. They never gave us a room to say, okay, let's go and reflect on it and reconvene to have a discussion. In the past, even when NDC were disputing and asking that we should go for a rerun, it became a stalemate. The Electoral Commission will postpone the meeting for us to reconvene again. So how come that they changed their position and they never gave room for political parties to even go and reflect on their proposals? So it was no more of a proposal. It was more of a directive that what we were going to do. So they didn't give you that room. We went for the meeting on Tuesday, 1st July. Then on Wednesday, you issue a release that you are going to do a rerun in 19 polling stations. At that point, what are you expecting the political party to do? What kind of meeting can they call for? Because you have denied them of all the opportunities to even re-engage you. Because you have gone ahead to issue a release that you are doing the elections on 11th June. So that is our position.
Tell me something about the NDC in the past have held this position you're articulating about this current EC. Are you sympathetic now to them, the NDC, and their position in the past against the current EC?
But why would you equate us with the NDC? NDC is a political party that has its own ideology.
Yes, I'm talking about.
No, it's not about.
I think your views on the EC now align with theirs. At least you've agreed that Asedun Ketia had a point, right?
Well, are you not sympathetic? I never said Asedun Ketia has a point.
Like you
I made mention of my position.
Yeah,
and
which aligns.
Well, that is for you to interpret.
The life principle, etc.
Well, that's for you to interpret it. I'm speaking on behalf of my party. I'm not here to do communication from the NDC.
Yeah.
I'm not here to talk about what NDC said about the Electoral Commission or what NDC perception about the Electoral Commission.
But there's one thing I'm curious about, Justin Kujafin. I've heard some of your leading members, after your marking Nana B, say that they suspect that the reason why the EC, as you say, may have done this U-turn is because of what Johnson Asedun Ketia's public statements. I interviewed him a couple of weeks back where he said the EC chairperson and the 2 deputies must go. They believe very strongly that has something to do with their decision. You believe that genuinely?
Well, they are not wrong to have that analogy or that assumption, because it cannot just be mere coincidence that the NDC national chairman makes public statement or assertion about the Electoral Commission. Then all of a sudden the Electoral Commission makes a U-turn. So if anyone holds the belief that is as a result of threats from the NDC's national chairman, that's why the NDC, that's why the EC has made a U-turn, the person is right to have that position. But for me, I will stick with my point that we are surprised by the sudden U-turn of the Electoral Commission.
I mean, they are independent, so they shouldn't be worried about
public pronouncement. Well, you should be worried because their actions affect political parties, their actions affect our democracy. Their actions affect our future elections also. So we cannot just make that statement that they're independent body, so therefore we can't question certain actions that they take.
I mean, do you expect a peaceful poll on Friday?
We are not going for a rerun, so I don't know, is the NDC and Electoral Commission going to fight among themselves?
Because there's a real fear that although you say you're not participating, agents, I say agents, I don't mean formal accredited agents, party supporters and sympathizers may be activated to disrupt the process. Is that a fear that we should
Well, I've not even thought about it. I don't think it is of any essence for me to even think about how the elections is going to be done on Friday, because as a political party, we are not taking part in the elections. And is that the official position of the New Patriotic Party? Because we know, based on our coalition, we won in Ablekuma North. So I don't see why the National Executive Committee does not see why we should partake in the elections. So officially, the NPP is not taking part in the Ablekuma North.
And all this is happening a week before a very major event for your party. A very major event, very significant, because for the first time in a long time, you're going to be attempting to do some constitutional amendments. I'm going to take a break. When I return, we'll talk about that, because he's a general secretary. That event is his responsibility, and it will redefine the NPP in a lot of ways. I'll get him to expand on that. Stay with me here on PM Express. And thank you for staying with us. You're still here on PM Express. My guest is still the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Justin Kodia-Frimpong. We've been talking quite extensively about Ablekuma North. They are not participating in Friday's rerun in 19 polling stations. They are in court. They're hoping that the court will decide the matter for them. But while all this is happening, he also has a major responsibility to steer the affairs of the conference that is going to happen just next week. What's that conference about?
Well, the 19th July conference is a delegate conference, the National Delegate Conference, and that is the highest decision-making body of the party. And basically, we are going to look at some proposals that have been submitted to the party to look at amending certain provisions of our constitution. And in all, we receive about 300 proposals. And the proposals will be put into motions. It does not mean that we are going to decide on 300 proposals. Some of the proposals are similar, so they will be merged into motions. And when the delegate conference agrees to some of the motions, then it will be added to the constitution or amended in our constitution to have an amended constitution. So basically, that's what's going to happen. It's a constitutional amendment.
Okay. We have some of the proposals. For example, you want to open up the delegates to everybody in your party who's registered?
There has been such proposal that we call it one man, one vote, whereby people made the proposals that the party should open our electoral college so that every card-bearing member will have a voting right. So that's something that came to the amendment committee. But they looked at it, and it's also subject to what the delegate conference will say. There are also some who also made a proposal for limited expansion, that it may be difficult to implement the one man, one vote now. So why don't we go on limited expansion? So all these things are decisions that the delegate conference will have to brainstorm and take a decision on.
It's an interesting one because, in opposition, resources is limited for an opposition party.
Yes.
If you do one man, one vote, that, in essence, is going to play around 4 million, 5 million votes, people. So looking at your membership,
so I perfectly agree. So
that's going to be hugely costly.
It has its own pros and cons, because some of the view that looking at the various allegations that came up during the parliamentary election, especially where issues of monocracy, sharing of items, there's a belief that if you expand it to one man, one vote, it becomes difficult to influence.
But can you afford it?
Such number, and the disadvantage is what we've spoken about, that it means that having card-bearing members running into millions, it becomes more of a national elections, yes, whereby EC will have to deploy more resources, even at the polling station.
Who bears the cost? The EC, or you have to pay the EC to do it?
You have to pay the EC to do it. So all these things are the financial implications if you have to go for the one man, one vote. And what would be the criteria? Because per our constitution, you must be a member of good standing. And what determines who a good standing member is? All these things are challenges or bottlenecks that you will have to also look at. And you also must pay your dues. So if you are paying your dues, it's from what time frame that we are looking at. And also the constitution also says that before you are even issued a membership card, your name must be enrolled at the polling station. So we do have that database to ascertain all this. So it's a bit tricky and a very complicated proposals to implement. But as I said, the final decision will also rest with the delegate conference.
Will the conference also, adopt the early presidential primary decision of the National Council, or that one is already settled?
Well, I've seen some people making arguments that the decision of the National Council is not final. Well, it's a bit tricky and debatable because per the Constitution as it stands now, under Article 13, is very explicit, very, very explicit about who determines date for presidential primaries. And if I'm to paraphrase it, it states that the decision as to date and venue for elections of presidential candidate shall be determined by National Council. It ends there. If the Constitution has said that the decision of the National Council, decision of the presidential primaries will be recommended by National Council subject to delegate conference, then you will know that that decision is also subject to National Delegate Conference approving of it. But where the Constitution does not give any further directive, then it ends there. So even in worst scenario or in the unforeseen scenario, there is a strong case or someone petition the delegate conference that we should have another look or vary the date of the presidential primaries. National Delegate Conference cannot fix the date because that power is not given to National Delegate Conference. It still has to come back to the National Council to fix the date. So for me, the date that has been set by the National Council, for me, is sound, looking at where we are as a party. Even currently in the NPP, the major issue that is creating discourse, is creating confusion and tension, has to do with the presidential primaries. Our communicators are sharply divided. They have aligned themselves with certain camps. On platforms, you hear exchanges, people, even to the extent of being personal, taking on personalities, using certain unprintable words, and it's creating division in the party. And we strongly believe that if we are able to hold the national presidential primaries early, it will curtail all this confusion, the extremist position taken by people, and to unite the party to focus on the 2028 election. So there's a very good reason why National Council feels that we need to hold the presidential primaries early.
How do you respond to the criticism that this was done to hand an unfair advantage to Dr. Bawumia, because in essence, the same delegates structure that elected him will be electing the presidential candidate again now? Whereas, if you were going by your convention, you would have changed that entire structure, shuffled it by the time you get to the presidential primary, and that this is fundamentally why you guys do this decision.
Well, I understand that change is something that is difficult for people to work out, and when you are used to one way of doing things, but you must also appreciate the circumstances that we find ourselves in as a party. Going to our elections losing by about 2.1 million votes. It means that you need to do certain drastic things to prepare yourself for the next elections. You can't continue to do things the old ways and expect new results. And that is the angle National Council looked at the whole scenario. Then two, you know we are going for a delegate conference on July 19th to amend our constitution. And I know as part of the amendment is an expansion of the Electoral College, whereby people are even advocating that former constituency officers, former ministers, former MPs, some are even stating former PCs, should all be part of the delegate conference. So certainly, you cannot say that the Electoral College in 2023 will still be the same as the Electoral College in 2026. So there will be some changes. There will be expansion in the Electoral College. And in any case, if anyone has followed our previous elections from all levels, polling station, electoral area, constituency, region, national, you will know that after the end of every elections, you have between 70 to 80% of executive retaining their positions. So even if we are to follow precedent and even do polling station elections, certainly a huge number of the polling station or constituency officers will still remain executives. And again, in 1992, at least we've gone to elections whereby party has repeated candidates, or candidates have gone for elections with incumbent. Professor Dubois went to 1996 election. He lost to President Kufuor. So at least there's that precedent, that the fact that the party presented you in the previous election does not mean that you'll still be the candidate. At the end of the day, all that we are looking at is how best we can quickly get over with the presidential primaries and unite the party. We have good candidates, people who have shown interest that they want to contest. And I strongly believe that our Electoral College, they are very discerning. So if you're able to canvass very well, explain your campaign message to the rank and file of the party, the Electoral College, and they buy into it, you will win. So I would disagree with anybody to think that this decision by National Council is skewed towards a particular candidate. I totally disagree.
And I know you've been very unhappy with the sort of campaigning that is happening in the various camps. I mean, you've had cause to complain that people should look at the bigger picture, that it's still the NPP, it's not individuals, because in the end, the party that will go into the battle. There's also the criticism that the party, you set rules, you must enforce the rules, that those who have breached those rules and acted outside the guidelines for campaigning, you sanction them. We haven't seen any sanctions yet.
Yes. Rules are not only to sanction people. Rules are sometimes made to guide people or to even caution people. There are so many steps and so many behind the scene activity that has happened, which because has not come to the public domain, people think that you have not taken certain actions. And we are a political party. Sometimes to circumstances at the occasion, we also determine how strict or how you're able to implement your rules and regulations. If you are not careful, then it will mean that you have to suspend everyone in the party. But sometimes it's important that you continue to engage your members. That where you are, you must be mindful of certain steps that you take. You also have to be mindful of certain statements that you make. That if you are not careful and you continue to run down members of this party, it will come back to haunt us. So there has been that engagement. And there are some people who have also been referred to the disciplinary committee, for the disciplinary committee to also act on them. There has been some times whereby people have accused me as general secretary, how can this person make a statement and you have not referred the person to the disciplinary committee? It's because of the provisions in our constitution. It depends on who made the statement and the position the person has in the party. for regional officers who are members of NEC, for national officers who are also members of NEC, before you can even sanction any of them, per our constitution, there must be a petition before the party. And when there is a petition before the party, a member of NEC petition is received by National Council. So it's not just that General Secretary, you hear certain comments, then you can just take a pen and paper and decide that, oh, I'm suspending this person or referring this person to the disciplinary committee. Because then someone will also take you on. That if you read the constitution, you do not have that power. And National Council is the second highest decision-making body of the party. Per our constitution, we meet 3 times in a year. So therefore, even someone conducts himself or in herself against the duties of a member of the party, you have to wait for the National Council meeting before you can take that decision, which by that time people have criticized you for not taking certain action. And these are all part of the loopholes that we see in the constitution, that provision has been made in the proposals to give certain powers to the General Secretary and even the steering committee to even take certain actions before NEC or National Council meeting is called upon. So we are working within the remit of the constitution, and we're also guided by it. So it's not just that we have the discretion to decide that, oh, I'm referring this person to the disciplinary committee or not.
While you were fighting the Ablekuma North War, you had a tragedy. And that's why I believe you're in black. You lost a sitting member of parliament in your ranks. So what happened? It's a very sorrowful, very difficult moment for the party. And I want to use this medium to also, on behalf of the party, send our deepest condolences to the family of our Honorable MP Ablekuma, the wife, the leadership of the party in Eastern Region, the constituency executive at Akwetia, about this tragic loss of our energetic, very committed member of our party. And he has been one of the most outstanding first-timers in Parliament. He's a very good communicator. He's always on his feet, making advocacy for the party and his constituency. And as to what's really happened is something that still baffles my mind, because the last time I was with him was when we went to Belgium for IGU conference, Center Rights Association conference, and myself and Nanabi, we were on the same plane. We had a very lengthy conversation. Even when we came back, we were discussing even the Akwetia elections and how the court and everything. We were just laughing about it. And there was no formal notification or communication that maybe he has been unwell for some time or maybe something has happened. So this must have been sudden.
So it's just a sudden thing that happened, and we are getting conflicting reports. Some are saying cardiac arrest, some are saying from pressure and those things. But it's very sad that we heard this unfortunate news yesterday. So may the good Lord find a peaceful resting place for our dear brother. And for me as General Secretary, it's a very big blow for me. It's a very big blow, and such a very difficult and uncomfortable situation. And perhaps God knows best, because to be a General Secretary and having had 3 members of Parliament from your party kicking the bucket is a very difficult thing.
And
to
having
accept.
to steer.
And having to steer.
Two by-elections. Now you're going to have another one in the midst of the death. The Constitution prescribes the time, so you haven't even finished grieving.
It's a very difficult situation.
And then you have to go into campaigning and all that.
We have
that must be
presidential
difficult.
primaries coming up, the delegate conference, and you have to plan all these things. Then this by-election also coming in, and after going through very difficult election and having lost even the mindset, the psyche of the party, we are now trying to pick ourselves together for these things to happen. But at least God knows best, and we cannot question God on these things. But it's a very difficult moment for us as a party.
My condolences, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you,
Justin Kodia Fempong Easy, General Secretary of the NPP. Enjoy the rest of your evening. PMH is always brought to you by Syntax Tanks, also brought to you by Academic Time newspaper and Precedent Committee Fighter.